If you want to participate, contact me at ordinarywomenpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you have great projects to brag about. You can also follow me and message me on Instagram at ordinarywomenpodcast, on Twitter at ordinarywomenpc, or on Facebook on the page Ordinary Women. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Ordinary Women. Hi Justine, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good, very excited to be here.
So excited to have you here and to record an episode in person. It's been quite a long time. And to have you, because we've been talking about this for
a long time. Yeah.
Can you give us a quick introduction of yourself, please?
Scary. So I'm Justine. I'm from France. I've been in the UK for 5 years now, 2 years in London, and before this I was in Bristol for 3 years. I'm a designer. I just graduated from London College of Fashion in January, so that's me. Thank you.
And is there something unusual about yourself?
So, I'm from Nantes and Lucy is from Rennes. Those two towns are in Brittany, but for a lot of people, it's very controversial. For a lot of people in France, Nantes is not part of Brittany. So, Lucy, do you think that Nantes is in Brittany?
I love that question. I hate that question.
I'm asking the questions today.
I think when I was growing up and a bit annoying, I was no because I wanted to be confrontational. And also because I'm from Rennes and a lot of people from Rennes say no.
There's beef between Nantes and Rennes, so...
Yes. Now that I'm older and that I educated myself and learned about our beautiful region's history, I would say yes. And I invite everyone to have a look at the Wikipedia page on Brittany to understand.
I spent so long on it.
I know, I love it. Thank you for sharing. Obviously, in this podcast, we talk a lot about being a woman. And so I always start with the question, was there a moment or an event in your life when you realized that you are a woman?
Yes, of course. But I think it's more a period of time when I was around 10, 11, when I started seeing looks on the street, even from older men, at a very young age. I think that every woman can relate to that. But also... growing up, going to school, I felt the difference in my friend group, going from just a bunch of kids hanging out together, playing together, to starting to have little relationships, girls being on their side, boys being on their side, etc. That's how I felt that. But also my relationship with other women, when I realized how strong relationships between women can be, that's when I realized, and I was proud of being a woman. Yeah,
I definitely agree, especially with this point. Women friendship are so strong and it's so special. Definitely agree. Thank you so much for sharing. And did you grow up with any women role model?
So that's a weird one, because when I was thinking about this a few times, I could never think of one. Obviously, there were a lot of women, singer, writer, etc., that I really admired, that I found very clever, very talented, etc., but I didn't have a role model that I was looking up to. But I realized that I think my sister is that role model that I had when I was a kid, because we have a 12-year age gap. So I was looking up to her very much. She inspired me quite a lot. She was my role model for real. Yeah.
Oh, and what do you think she taught you?
Well, I think she taught me how to be kind. Because, not saying that I wasn't kind, but...
I was a little bit.
A little bit. No, not at all, but it's just... I don't know, her kindness, she's so funny. She taught me how to be funny, I think. I think I am.
Yeah, you are.
She taught me about fashion. She taught me about... Even though she's not... That's funny because she's not interested at all in fashion, but for me, she was the coolest one. I was always begging my mom to get the same clothes as her, etc. But also, I think she was a role model because... When I was very, very little, I used to call her mom. I thought I had two moms. I had my mom and my sister because she always say to me, when you were born, it's like you were my first baby, because she's got other kids now. But yeah, we've got that very strong bond, and I think that we can talk a bit more about this, but that's about it. Yeah, she's my role model. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cute. And what about today? Do you currently have any women role model?
That's the thing. I think she still is.
Mm-hmm.
I think she still is. And what's funny is that I used to look up to her when I was a kid. And now I feel like we both look up to each other. There's not that... It's more balanced now with two grown women having a relationship. And I think she already said a few times that I inspire her too. So I guess that now it's more back and forth role model kind of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, when one of us need advice on anything, we're gonna call each other, etc. But I guess, yeah, it comes back to what we were saying about relationship between women. I know it's my sister, but I could have not get along with her, and yeah, I really see her as, yeah, like a best friend. And even my friends, I look up to them. They're my inspiration. Yeah, I get lots of inspiration from my friends and women around me, because I relate to that way more than some big role model that you would think of. I don't relate to that kind of way of thinking, because I can't relate to, for example, say I'm a designer. I can admire what other people do, but I think it's too much pressure to put on ourselves to always look up to someone, if that makes sense. And I think that, well, I talk about this in the project I'm going to talk to you about after, but that whole girl boss thing is really irritating for me, because women have already a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and there shouldn't be that. The girl boss, the making lots of money, working all the time, like trying to be the best at everything, it shouldn't be the standard. And you have the right to not want and not crave that. So yeah, that's my point on this, like role model, not for me.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I definitely agree with this, like the work part, and this is definitely capitalism, right? It's like feminism in its essence threatens capitalism, and this is like
Definitely.
capitalism coming back
Yes.
to us, back at us. Definitely agree with that. Yeah, everyone has their the right to be ordinary.
Exactly, and I don't think like we should look down at women that decide to, and at people in general that decide to, I don't know, they don't want to work, so they just gonna do something else and find a way to survive in another way. I don't know if you know what I mean. You don't have to. And like even like women that decide to not work the moment they have a kid, like that's fine. What I don't understand why people look down to those people. Yeah, that's crazy to me that people are still looking at other people's lives, and yes, that's really irritating for me.
So fair. I love that you're just taking inspiration from your friends where you want to.
Yes.
And do you think that the lack of representation of women in society had an impact on you?
So yeah, I think, I don't know if that will make sense with that question, but for me, I feel like it might have impacted the way that I struggle to stand up for myself in certain situations, even in very mundane situations. Like say my washing machine has been broken for 3 weeks, I'm gonna be scared to call my landlord and be a bit mad at him, etc. Like I feel like we don't have enough representation of women being strong and standing up for themselves, if that makes sense. I don't know, maybe it's just very personal. It's very much my personality to be a bit like this, but I feel like I've seen way more men being, you know, like, I can't find the word.
Violent.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And I'm not saying that we should be violent, but I'm just saying that we should not let people stepping on us. And yeah, I guess that because people don't let that space for us, but maybe it's very personal and it won't make sense for anyone else. But for me, I wish I saw more women, or maybe see less men being that violent. You know, balance that out a little bit. You know, yeah, that didn't make lots of sense, but yeah.
No, it does. Thank you so much for sharing. Can we jump on the second part and talk about something that you have done and are proud of. What do you want to talk about?
I'd like to talk about the project I've been working on at university a few months back.
Mm-hmm.
So my final project is called Little Red Tides, and it's a film performance that you can find anywhere on YouTube, Vimeo, etc. And it's a project around the pressure on women's body in workplace, in corporate environments. So yeah, really it's my final project, but I did a few other projects. So the first project I did during that MA was called The Legs of 2073. And it's a little motion movie that I created after researching on power forces in the fashion industry in general, and like how people dress, how it can impact power forces between people, etc., etc. And it reminded me of a few experiences I've had in the past when I was doing my jobs as a student, etc. And it's funny because for one of the job, I was an event hostess in a hall, like a music hall. And I had a uniform to wear, which was a dress. So I had to wear that. I had to like put my legs out there. And there was that other job. I was working in a supermarket at the till. And they specifically told me during my interview that I was not allowed to show my legs. Even though I was sitting behind the till, no one could see my legs, and we were in a heat wave, obviously. And when I thought about this, I found that very funny, how a part of your body is going to be controlled, and on one side and the other. Sometimes you're going to have to show it, and the minute after, you're going to have to hide it. So I found that very interesting. So I created a little timeline between 1973 and 2073 with real and fake historical points, and I did create a little story around this. So that's a process that we use sometimes in design. It's called speculative design. So it was created by two designers. It's amazing. They wrote a book about it. It's just amazing. Speculative design, really, it's designers criticizing something that is currently happening. And to do this, they create an object or a situation that exists in the future so people can understand how ridiculous the situation is today, if that makes sense.
Right, okay, I think so, yeah. That's so interesting.
So what I did is that I did that timeline with real things between 1973 and 2023, because that's the year I did this, with real historical things, like for example, until 2013 in Paris, in the law, women couldn't wear trousers, for example. So it's lots of little facts like this on women's legs, on showing, not showing, etc., on skirts, etc. And then I invented between 2023 and 2073 lots of fake historical things. Like, it's a bit, obviously, there's a lot of humor, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's just to underline how ridiculous those first historical facts were. So yeah, it might sound a little bit weird, but it's a very fun video. How I did that is that I just filmed the legs of my friend walking, and then I just digitally created a little stop motion. I drew little skirts, etc. It was very crafty and very funny to make. And yeah, it was lovely to make this. And then I did a second project that was called Confusing Bodies. This was the first time I worked with a performer called Timna Kren, and she is amazing. She's a performer and a writer also, and she was back then also doing an MA at UAL, but more in the performance side of the university. So yeah, by doing this, that's where I started to introduce more, it became more physical, because obviously the first project, it was a bit more digital. And by working with Timna, it was very physical. We did few brainstorming sessions, we call this. Body storming sessions, actually. So it's just brainstorming session, but with our bodies. So it was super interesting to understand how our body moves, how you can, because obviously we're being objectified. So we might as well understand our body to make something with it. And so that second project is just a video of a woman going to work, and on her way to work she's moving with movements and she's trying to confuse her body, etc. It sounds a bit weird, it sounds a bit like student project, but it was really funny. I was inspired by a project called Disobedient Objects. So it's a designer, I don't remember his name, Jonathan something, but it's really easy to find. It was at the Design Museum a few years back.
I'll put in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you. And he just showed how you can turn any object into an object to protest. And I wanted to do the same, but with the body, to turn your body. So you having power over my body, so I'm going to take my body back and protest with it. So it's just a series of movement, etc., that woman do on her way to work to find her strength and to deal with that long day of going to work and being looked at and being criticized on her look, etc. And that led me to my final project. That was also a video. It was a bit longer, and also it was because the last project I just filmed it with my iPhone, etc. And that one I filmed it a bit more professionally, if you'd say. I worked with a cameraman called James Laes. He's great too. I've really enjoyed working with. I worked again with Timna. She was also the performer for the last video. It's a little film, and yeah, it's just the story of a woman. It's basically a bit like the second video, but it's inside her workplace and with her coworker around her, etc. And yeah, I feel like it's hard to talk about a project that you spend so long on, especially videos, because people need to watch it to understand, because it's all about the sound design. It's all about little things that you can see happening in video. How she, for example, before walking her office, she's going to remove her red lipstick, and then to like protest back, at some point she's going to put on red tights, etc., etc. So yeah, I found that, yeah, it was amazing to have the opportunity to work with people like this. And it was a lot of work because I did everything from scratch. So it was very difficult, but I enjoyed it so much, and I hope I'm going to have the opportunity to do something like this again. So yeah, I don't know if you have a bit more question about the project or...
Obviously, you know me, I always ask questions, despite the fact that I know this project.
Yes.
And I encourage everyone, I'll put the obviously video in the show notes. I really encourage everyone to go see it. But I think I would love to hear more about the evolution of your reflection around it. Because like you talked about it and how it was like over a few years. Clearly it's something that you had thought about in the past. So I think I'm just curious how did you go from one project to the other? How it impacted the way you see your clothing at work or your life in general?
How it evolved. I think at first I was not even like looking at women's body at work, women at all. I was just looking at power forces, as I said in the beginning, relationship forces, power forces through the clothes. So I looked at uniforms, for example, just uniforms in general. But that seemed like it was a bit the obvious path. And also, we were told that it was good to work on something that we could relate to. I don't really relate to wearing a uniform. I did, as I said earlier, but it was just for a few weeks for a job when I was younger. So I found that way more interesting to talk about, women's clothes in the workplace and how that evolved. I think for the first project, I was very, very focused on the clothes in itself. Second project, I focused a bit more on the body. And last project, I focused on body movement plus how clothes can move with the body. So it's funny. It's almost like I was trying to find my way, being like, okay, but so women's body in the workplace, is it through the body really, or is it through the clothes, etc.? Like I was a bit confused. And in the end, I realized that one can't go without the other, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that makes sense for your question.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That is so interesting. Thank you so much. How did you start? So, like, I have two questions for you. Well, I have 1,000. But How did you start? And I think kind of linked with it because you talked about body storming. I would love to hear a bit more about that because I don't really know how it works. And I guess that, or like you mentioned, that it was kind of like part of sort of the beginning. How do you start such a project?
Okay, so how do you start it? You just come up with a few ideas that you might have, and then you go. The way we worked in our MA, it was an MA that was half practice based, so very design, very doing things with your hands, etc., and half research. So how I worked is that I was going back and forth between reading journals, etc. I would find an idea that was interesting in the journal, being like, okay, the argument is very interesting. I want to test this argument through experiments. So I don't know, for example, I read a very interesting journal. I'm going to send it to you because I forgot, obviously, all the journals that I've been reading during uni, but I'll send it to you. There was one very interesting about the city of London, about people in corporate place, how they dress, how they being looked at, perceived. Like, for example, how certain intern can't wear certain ties.
Oh my God, yeah.
Remember? Yeah, something like that. So what I did, so I'm like, okay, interesting. I found that very interesting. So what I did is that I went in the city of London at 8 a.m, between 8 and 10, and I just took, sounds a bit weird, but it's not. It's just for me, for personal research, but I took pictures of people walking around, going to work, etc. And then from that, I would go to something I would see, and then from this, I would look at all the pictures and find another pattern and be like, okay, for example, actually not a lot of women wear heels. We think a lot of women wear heels, but they don't. At least to go to work, they don't. So then, okay, there's a new thing. Let's check if there's a journal talking about this. So it's a back and forth between looking at what people have written and what I can see. Obviously, it's not going to be the truth, what I'm seeing, but maybe I'm adding a bit of subjectivity into all of this. Yeah.
So interesting. And wait, so for this one, did you also do body storming for the last project, or was it only for the second one?
No, for the last one too. I did it for the second and last one. Yeah, I did body storming for the two. So it's very simple, really. But there's not, I don't know if there's a way to do a body storming session, but how I did it is that I prepared a lot of objects that I would put and a lot of clothes, etc., that I would find a room and put like a table, trying to make it look like a desk, yeah, and put lots of objects, very random object. There could be a feather, there could be a Rubik's cube, it could be anything, and a few clothes. And I would just film Timna, and I would tell her to do certain things, like react to a coworker telling you this, react to that, and she would just improvise around this, and she would like put music on her phone, and it's just I was not really directing her as we were doing this. It was sessions that could last, for example, half an hour to an hour, and then I would look back at those videos and find interesting things that I would want to incorporate in my videos in the future. Interesting body movement, the way she reacted, her look, how she was looking at the camera, etc., how I was filming at this moment, how interesting it was to film her from under or from above, etc. It was just body storming, but also improvisation, if that makes sense. And not only improvisation from her, but also from me trying to understand the body, the camera movement, etc.
That is so interesting. Do you think your project impacts the way you dress for work now? And if so, how?
Is it bad to say absolutely not?
No, of course it's not. Of course it's not.
It doesn't at all. Mm-hmm. It doesn't at all. It doesn't, but I think I'm quite lucky that I'm not working in the job I used to work in. I don't have a uniform. I'm working in a very creative office. Obviously, no, I still restrict myself on some things. There are maybe a few things that I wouldn't wear at work. For example, I don't really mind going out with a top that is a little bit see-through because I don't wear a bra, but I don't see myself doing that at the office, and I don't know why. I can't find an explanation for that because I don't think anyone would really care. But you know, it's just, it didn't change anything because I feel like, that's funny because earlier I was saying I picked this subject because I relate to it, but now I do not relate to it that much anymore. But I think it was still very interesting and important for me to maybe understand what happened before. Like how me or my friends told me that they received comments on their outfits at work, etc. Just trying to make a sense of it, trying to, I don't know.
Have you used that since in like conversations with your friends?
As in, like, during
like someone making a comment of that type where before you were like, oh yeah, like
Mm.
maybe not understanding, and now you're like, oh, actually.
Oh, I can't remember. I know that my best friend just sent me a text the other day asking me a question about an outfit for work and asking me, do you think it's weird? Oh yeah, she asked me, do you feel comfortable? Because her and I, we don't wear bras. That's it. And she asked me, do you wear a bra when you go to the office? And do you feel comfortable not wearing a bra? And you know what? I hope none of my coworkers are listening to that. But nowadays I'm in London and I still work for the company I used to work for back in Bristol. So I was working surrounded by my coworkers all the time. And I used to wear a bra every day. Well, a bralette, like a little something, just so it had an extra protection, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And outside of work, I would never. But now I do not wear it because I see them on Zoom meetings, basically. Or I see them sometimes when they come down to London or when I visit them to Bristol. But it's funny how when she asked me that question, I was like, that's funny you asking this, because why are we even asking ourselves that kind of thing? It's kind of sad in a way, but yeah.
That's really interesting. And what challenges have you faced?
I'd say it comes back to that thing where I think I don't stand up enough for myself. I'm a person that is scared. I'm scared. Before starting this podcast, I was like, Lucy, I'm scared. I'm just not very brave. No, it's not true, because I've done things, but like I see myself as someone that isn't brave, and I don't know if it's gonna take me extra effort to do things, or maybe I think it's only me finding it difficult and other people do things very easily. I don't think it's the truth, but yeah. But it was super hard for me to put myself in a position of directing other people, directing a cameraman, directing a performer, because they both do amazing work, and I was like, why would they want to work with me? Well, like, why would they want to work with me? And like, it felt weird. Like, sometimes they were like, Justine, what do you want? And I was like, yeah, I know what I want, but I'm scared of saying it. So it was a big challenge and in the end, I found a way to do it, and I'm very proud of myself for this. But it was hard to not have the authority, because that sounds very bad, but to, take charge of them, if that makes sense.
Like to lead.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think I'm bad at leading, but I need to push myself a little extra to get to this leader position. Yeah.
Yeah, that's especially fair in your masters. Like, no one's born a leader.
Yeah.
Was there anything that was easier than you thought would have been?
I think I thought I would be a bit on my own. Well, obviously it was my project, I was doing it, but I was so surprised by the support of my classmates, of my teachers, of Timna, of James. It was quite amazing to see how other people were actually, even you helped me on writing my dissertation. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's how we met. And I was so surprised in how actually people around me made it easy for me to achieve this. I worked with 2 French performers for the first body session, because I couldn't be in London, so I couldn't do the first one with Timna. We did the second one together, but not the first one. And yeah, I was just amazed by how people like genuinely interested in other people's project, and that made it easy for me, to have other people's point of view, to have other people just helping me, giving me a hand, etc. So thank you, everyone.
Oh, that's really cute. And I was actually going to ask if anyone had an impact on you as well. I guess you did mention already Timna.
Timna had, and James.
And James?
Yeah. Timna for sure had the greatest impact on that whole project, and she's a very inspiring person. Everyone needs to check what she's doing. She's doing so many things at the same time. She's so passionate. She's just amazing. She's a great actress. She writes. Yeah, she's just amazing. She does that thing too where it's called, sorry Timna, but I think it's called Toei, something like this, and it's just a round table of people talking about subject, and she's a presenter sometimes of this. She's just doing so many things, and she's so inspiring. She could be one of my role models, to be fair. No, yes. So Timna, and it's a friend at this point, so I'm so glad I met her. Yeah.
Aww. Amazing. She sounds amazing.
She is.
I'll try to get her on my podcast.
Yeah, oh please, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and why are you proud of this?
Why I'm proud of this? It's hard to say why you're proud of something. It's really hard. I don't know. I think I'm proud. It sounds very factual and not very inspiring, but I think the final film I'm proud of. I'm proud of how I edited it, how it looks like. I'm not usually very proud of my project. I'm a bit ashamed. I'm still ashamed to show it around, but I'm very proud of this one. I think it looks good. I think it's worth a watch. Yeah. And it's sorry, that sounds a bit.
I fully agree.
It does. I'm still a bit scared of showing it to people, but I'm super proud of it. If I was a year before producing that film, I could have never think I would be able to do something like this in a few months. It's a short film, but it's so much work, and I'm so proud that I achieved all of this. It's just quite amazing for me, especially that I've never made a film before. I don't know editing. I've never made storyboards before, and I never wrote a movie, a little film or anything like that. That's not a thing that I was taught when I was doing my BA. So yeah, quite proud of myself for this. And also doing an MA in English, because it's not my first language. I'm kind of proud of it, so I'm not gonna lie.
No, completely.
Yeah.
It's so challenging.
Yeah, very.
But yeah, so many amazing things to be proud of yourselves for. That's amazing. Again, encourage everyone to go see the short movie, because I do think it's absolutely great, and then you should be proud of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're going to conclude our episode of that, but before we conclude, is there anything that we haven't talked about, that you wanted to mention before we finish?
Well, no, I hope you can just give me good positive vibes so I can find a job or anything in this kind of industry, in the film industry, curation industry, performance, etc. I really enjoy the job I have right now. I'm a UX UI designer, by the way. But yeah, I'd like to get my head into that industry a little bit more. So if you can just light a candle for me, just do it, please.
Or if anyone knows anyone, please reach out and I'll pass on to Justine. And that would be amazing. Great. Well, thank you so much. It was so great to have you finally record together.
I know.
And it was so interesting. I loved hearing about it.
I hope it makes sense for people.
It does.
I know I said that like 1,000 times. I hope it makes sense. But I hope it does.
To say that. So you're making perfect sense.
No, but you know how hard it is I'm sure you know how hard it is to talk about something that you did. Sometimes other people are like, what? But yeah.
Explaining what goes through your brain.
Yeah.
Especially for art.
Yeah.
I think it's especially.
Because you don't want to sound like you just making no sense and you just like another art student, because like it's just sorry, I'm talking too much, but
oh my god, don't be sorry.
I think people like art is just wow, like people are just they just produce amazing things, and people tend to make fun of artists and like, oh, it doesn't make any sense, etc. Try to go beyond that, please. And if you, even if that not work means something for you and the artist didn't want you to understand that through that, it doesn't matter. Like, just try to go beyond don't make fun of artists, please.
And also, art doesn't have to make sense, and
No, it doesn't.
fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to have everything make sense. But you know what? I really had that realization as well, or like not realization, but I think I was not too much into abstract painting until I started. And my first abstract painting, I was like, light bulb, aha moment, eureka.
Yeah.
Like,
and sometimes it doesn't have to make sense for other people. It can make sense just for yourself.
Totally.
And that's enough, I think. So yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you so much. It was so great. And as you know, there is a little tradition in this podcast that the guest always gets the very last word. So the mic is yours.
My word is protest.